And I think we're live. All right, let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of our Immigration Hero live stream series brought to you by immigrationquestion.com, your go to platform for up to date immigration insights, legal guidance, and real time conversations with licensed attorneys. My name is Anusia Mukherjee, and I'll be your host for today's Immigration Question webinar Post Release Strategies for Immigrants Rebuilding Lives After Detention. For many immigrants, the experience of detention is a traumatic and disorienting one. But even but even once you are released, the challenges don't stop. In fact, freedom can bring a whole new set of hurdles: emotional recovery, legal uncertainty, and the difficult task of rebuilding your life from scratch. Today's session will cover key aspects of life after detention, from understanding your legal rights and responsibilities to finding reliable support systems for housing, healthcare, and employment. We'll also discuss how to prepare for upcoming court dates and USCIS interviews, ensuring you're ready to face the challenges ahead. Today, we're glad to have attorney Jonathan Irizarry-Lopez, a licensed immigration attorney and co-founder of J&R Immigration Attorneys LLC, with us. He will guide us in discussing what comes next after being released from immigration detention. Attorney Irizarry-Lopez has extensively experienced the in family-based immigration and has worked with clients navigating some of the toughest legal situations, and today he's here to provide clarity on your next steps. Thank you so much for joining us today, Attorney Azari Lopez. We're glad to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Before we dive in, a quick reminder: Immigration Question is a platform that connects users to immigration attorneys. We are not a law firm. All attorney services will be provided independently by professionals registered to our network. So let's get started with the questions. Attorney Lopez, for many immigrants, the period immediately after being released from detention can be a whirlwind. One of the most important things to understand is how to navigate the legal landscape. What are the key legal responsibilities and rights that immigrants must be aware of post release?
Okay, so it's important to recognize that once a person has been detained by immigration authorities, a couple of things before we even get to the release part. You know. When you legal help, your attorney is going to look through the process to make sure, first of all, that you qualify to be released under a bond for immigration. The general rule is that when a person is detained, is placed in removal proceedings. Um, Obviously, if you're detained, what you want to be released. Now, the general rule is that you can obtain a bond. What the immigration judge is going to want to see in order to grant you a bond is that you're not a flight risk and you don't are a danger to the community, people, or property, right? So that's the general rule. If the judge determines, look, this person is not a flight risk, for example, this person has lived, I'm in New Jersey, right? So this
Mm-hmm,
person has lived in New Jersey 3 4 years, has had steady employment, has
mm-hmm,
family ties. That's good. We're not a flight risk. Uh, this person is also not a danger to the community. A simple case. A lot of times we have domestic violence issues or a DUI where there was no accident. Like for domestic violence issues,
mm-hmm,
generally speaking, the victim is not interested in continuing with the case. It has been the first arrest. Charges were dismissed. So this person we consider is not a danger to the community. A DUI where there was no accident was the first one, not a danger to the community. Now, if there was an accident, there was damaged property, that's different. But generally, that being the case, the person is released. Recently, in January, the law was changed. Uh, I don't know if maybe a lot of the people who are with us have learned of the Lake and Riley Act.
mm-hmm,
Basically, that changed a lot when it comes to what is mandatory detention and not. So if you're a person that's been just charged with, for example, assaulting a police officer, aggravated assault, and so on, those type of crimes, just again, just being charged from them, there doesn't need to be a conviction. Just the mere
mm-hmm,
fact of being charged of those crimes does not qualify you for bond for
mm-hmm,
the immigration judge. Now, uh, you can still find a way to be released through what's called a parole request. That falls totally under the discretion of ICE. But they would make a similar analysis as the immigration judge, right? They're
Mhm.
going to want to see that you're not a flight risk, that you're not a danger to the community. But then
Mhm.
again, it's under the discretion. So they may say yes or no, depending on the documents they have. And if they release you, they could do it on bond, they could do it on your own recognizance. But that's important to know. Now, be it that you're released, because you obtain a bond from the immigration judge or from ICE, you're released. Important to learn to recognize this. When you're detained, immigration court proceedings run very quickly. Right when the
Mhm.
person is detained, immigration court is going to want to move quick.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, when someone is detained, the immigration court is going to want to finish working on your case within 2-3 months. Yes, there can be an adjournment for a justified reason, but as a general rule, 3-4 months tops.
Mhm.
Now, once you're released, your case moves from what's called the detained docket, where everything is moving quick, to the
Mhm.
regular docket in a regular immigration court.
Mhm.
So, as an example, here in New Jersey, detained cases are generally heard before the Elizabeth Immigration Court for detainees.
Mhm.
Once you're released, you go to Newark.
Mhm.
Now, once you go to Newark, you're going to get a new court hearing date. When will that court hearing date be? We don't know. I can say from my personal experience that I have clients who were released in 2023,
Mhm.
2024 from detention, and they
Mhm.
still don't have a court hearing date in Newark. So it's unpredictable. It's all going to
Mhm.
depend on the court, their calendar, when they will get a court hearing notice. Now, once you're released, you got to make sure that the immigration court has your address.
Mhm.
So, because remember, once you get scheduled for the court, you're going to receive a court hearing notice, and you don't want to miss that. You want to
Exactly.
make sure that you appear for court. So you got to stay on top.
Mhm.
Every time a person moves, they need to change their address with the court within 10 days.
Mhm.
You have to fill out the form, what's called an EOIR 33. You go
Mhm.
to your local immigration court where you're assigned, you submit that document, the court knows. So when they're going to send you a new hearing notice, they know where you live, and make sure that you receive that. Because if you don't show up to court, then you're going to get what's called an absentia removal order because you did not appear for court. And then comes a whole issue of filing a motion to reopen, so we take care of the deportation order. But that's a little ahead. First
Mhm.
thing, make sure that they have your updated address all the time. um, a lot of things that also happen is that once you're released, you also have to appear with ICE, so that they can keep track and make sure they have the updated information.
Mhm.
A lot of times they will give you a phone, and expect you to report to them every certain so through video, through a phone call. They may have the person show up to the local ICE office just to sign off, and hey, just come back 3, 4, 6 months down the line,
Mhm.
just that we know where you are. But basically, the most important thing, make sure that they have the updated information, both the court
Mhm.
and ICE. Important to remember, because a lot of people have this issue. They confuse ICE with the immigration court, and they believe it's the same thing. No, they're not.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you have to update your address both with ICE and the court, so that any notices, they can get back to you. And like I said, most importantly, the court, so they can send you your court hearing notice and you have that available for you.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you for that. That was really informative. Our next question is, let's talk about building a strong legal strategy for the long term. Staying in the US legally is the priority for many individuals. How can individuals begin to build a long term legal strategy to remain in the US after their release?
So, before the person is released, even, I would say even before the immigration judge considers releasing a person, beyond the fact that if the person is a flight risk or the person is a danger to the community, the immigration judges want to see that you have an immigration relief. All
Mm-hmm.
right. They're just not going to release you without you having some type of immigration relief. So, as a general rule, many people apply for asylum. For asylum, there has to be a fear of return to your country, and fear and persecution there, based on race, religion, political opinion, your membership in a particular social group.
Mm-hmm.
That can also be what's called cancellation or removal. General rule: you've been in the United States 10 years, physically present. If you're removed from the United States, your qualifying relative, which could be your spouse, your children, parents who are legal permanent residents, United States citizens. If you're removed from the United States, these people will suffer an extreme and unusual hardship. So
Mhm.
even before your release, you need to have something filed, right?
Mhm.
So be it an asylum, cancellation or removal, something. So
Mhm.
once you are going to continue pursuing that type of relief before the immigration court, because that's
Mhm.
something that the immigration judge is going to be able to adjudicate in your case, right?
Mhm.
So if we're looking at that plainly, what you want to do is that once upon your release, you're going to have more time to work on your case, definitely. Because, like
Mhm.
I said, the case is not going to move in 3-4 months. It's going to
Mhm.
take years, right? So you
Mhm.
have more time. So if you suffer persecution in your country,
Mhm.
political political persecution, as an example,
Mhm.
person from Venezuela used to work for the government, quit the government job, decided to vote in the elections in favor of the opposition. And then
Mhm.
persecution started happening against this person. Well,
Mhm.
okay, so now we have more time. I'm released. What do I want to obtain? Corroborative evidence, like
Mhm.
IDs that this person used to work for the government, letters from friends, family, other government employees that know about the situation. All
Mhm.
of these things that can help you corroborate your case, right?
Mhm.
Now, one of the strategies I use and something that I concentrate a lot on is, so besides the immigration relief that I can have adjudicated in immigration court, do I have any other immigration relief that will
Mhm.
get me out of immigration court?
Mhm.
Uh, I'll be honest. I don't want to. The reality is that a lot of cases that get fought in immigration court do not have a high approval rate, right?
Mhm.
So my job as an attorney is looking for other alternatives as well. So
Mhm.
if I see that my client has another possibility of obtaining a green card, of obtaining some immigration relief,
Mhm.
and through that I can close the immigration court proceedings, I will
Mhm.
go for that, and I will advise my client properly about that. So for example, I don't know if anyone here has heard of what's called a U visa. So a
Mhm.
U visa, it's separated for people who have suffered certain crimes in the United States.
Mhm.
Um, so once you file a U visa, that's a way you can work your way to a green card.
Mhm.
So if the person suffered, for example, a crime of domestic violence, some type of assault,
Mhm.
sexual assault, any of those qualifying criminal activities under a U visa, you can
Mhm.
do the U visa while you also have your immigration court, right? Let's
Mhm.
example asylum. But eventually along the way, if we can manage, right, to file everything for like the U visa and it's approved, we will try to close out the immigration court case so you don't have to worry about a removal order and work on your U visa, because everything is certified. Boom, boom, boom. But I take out of the way immigration court proceedings and just continue directly with USCIS. So that's
Mhm.
something that you may think about, if you qualify for this. Another option could be, if you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, partner who's a legal permanent resident or U.S. citizen, you can also see, hey, are we going to get married? You get married, file a family petition, and eventually try to close out the case in immigration court, so you can just proceed through USCIS consular processing, depending on the situation.
Mhm.
One of the challenges that we face today is that a lot of people who cross the border to the United States, when they marry, be it a U.S. citizen or someone with a green card, uh, they need a waiver, the I-601A waiver. So the way things are working now is that the current administration does not allow for closing removal proceedings so people can get a waiver and
Mhm.
eventually work on a green card. So that's
Mhm.
another issue. But it's important to have those things clear and in mind, so you know your options, right?
Mhm.
And know, basically where we could be heading with this strategy.
Definitely. There are so many layers to this process, and it's not just about the legal side. Once someone is out of detention, their day to day needs like housing, healthcare, finding stable employment become immediate concerns. What types of support systems should post release immigrants look for to help them with housing, healthcare, and employment?
Okay, so uh, I mean, for the most part, people who are detained, obviously, most of them worked before being detained. Luckily for a lot of people, they, they're, a lot of times I've had the experience where the employer is very supportive of the person who's detained.
Mm-hmm.
So they will give a certification saying, "Look, this person works for me
Mm-hmm.
or has worked for me for this long. Great employee, great person, supervisor, or very friendly." So that's good. So a lot of times, even though a person may be detained, when it comes to employment, for the most part, they're able to come back where they were working previously. So that's good. That's not a problem. When it
Mm-hmm.
comes to healthcare and all those other details of housing,
Mm-hmm.
um, one of the things important when we're seeking a release is that the immigration judge and ICE, before you're
Mm-hmm.
released, they're gonna want to know if there is someone out there that is willing to take you in before
Mm-hmm.
they even grant you a bond or a parole. So
Mm-hmm.
in that sense, we should be good. And then for the parole or the bond, family member, friend to certify that you're going to have housing, that you're going to be taken care of. So that's not a problem. So
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to evaluate it. So in that sense, you're going to have somewhere to stay. Generally speaking, like I said, employment shouldn't be a problem. When it comes to healthcare, that's something that the state could work on. So you would
Mm-hmm.
have to go to the pertinent state agency to look
Mm-hmm.
at that, see the funds that they have available, see and help you obtain, if needed be, the healthcare so you're taken care of. So that's not really a problem there. So because it's pretty accessible.
All right, thank you. Many immigrants worry about upcoming court dates and USCIS interviews. The anxiety about what to expect is real, but being prepared can make all the difference. What advice would you have for immigrants to prepare effectively for upcoming court dates or USCIS interviews after being released from detention?
Perfect. So when it comes to the release after detention, like I mentioned previously, so the judge before releasing you is going to want to make sure that you have some type of immigration relief that the court can adjudicate. So
Mm-hmm.
if we follow the example of having filed an asylum application, when you get released and you go to the regular docket, the non-detained docket, the
Mm-hmm.
court will have that relief application already in file. Right? They
Mm-hmm.
will already have seen it. The previous judge who handled the detained proceedings will have seen it. The court will have accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, they're like, everything seems to be in order here. At least
Mm-hmm.
the form is filled out. Maybe we didn't get a lot of corroborative information for the claim, but at least we have the form. So the court at least will have that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important, and I know there's a lot of anxiety. Definitely, for the most part, you're going to a court where proceedings are not in your native language. Yes, there will be an interpreter, but at the end of the day, it is going to be in English. So there could be a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry. But I can tell you, for the general part, going to immigration court, you will present yourself. The
Mm-hmm.
relief application will be there. If you
Mm-hmm.
have any corroborative evidence for your claim, you can have you can present it. Now after COVID, things move digital. So what happens? What lawyers do is that we file everything online through the court
Mm-hmm.
system, so they will have that.
Mm-hmm.
And once the court accepts it, they're going to see a relief application. They're going to want to see ID documents, passport, birth certificate for the person who's applying. So when
Mm-hmm.
you go to immigration court, it's a thing of, we show up, everything is already there. If there
Mm-hmm.
is anything missing, and we understand, we need more time, you can ask the judge about that. It has to be based on reasonable cost, but everything is there. So really, the judge, when we go to what's called a master hearing,
Mm-hmm.
that's like a preliminary hearing before the actual trial, the judge is gonna just want to make sure that they have everything. So it's not, a lot of people fear, and they ask me, "Oh, if I go to this hearing, will I get arrested or something like that?" No,
Mm-hmm.
you're not. Unless it's something that ICE is looking, especially this climate, for something crazy, you
Mm-hmm.
will be fine. No one
Mm-hmm.
is gonna say, "Oh yeah, just come to immigration court and come to this back door, and we're gonna arrest you there." No, no, no. In order to deport you, there has to be a removal order. Right? The judge has to adjudicate everything,
Mm-hmm.
and then there has to be a removal order for you to. No, you don't have to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Just show up to court. The documents will be there. If you have a
Mhm.
lawyer, they should be taking care of that. So no need to be stressed over this. It's pretty simple. Like I said, the
Mhm.
judges want to make sure you want to see a relief application, that we have, corroborative evidence it was presented, and then your
Mhm.
case will be set to trial, or what's called an individual hearing in the future based on the court's calendar. So and in that date, then the court is going to go deeply into what's in the application, what's the corroborative evidence, how
Mhm.
have you testified, and that detail will happen there. But even then, it's not like, oh, we're not going to approve your application and then we're going to send you to your country. No, there's still a chance to appeal it. I've had cases where I've had to appeal, and
Mhm.
we've won the appeal, or the
Mhm.
case gets sent back to immigration court because an error from the judge. So
Mhm.
it's not the end of the road. So when it comes to USCIS
Mhm.
interviews, so
Mhm.
generally speaking, for the most part, we have family petitions, right?
Mhm.
So when it comes to USCIS marriage petition, let's keep it simple. You have your wife, your husband,
Mhm.
who's a green card holder, a U.S. citizen. They file the application for you. Um, Before even going to the interview, the
Mhm.
USCIS requires that you submit certain documents.
Mhm.
So when it's something based on marriage, they're gonna want to see pictures of dates, the wedding, the honeymoon, just to make sure that it's a legit,
Mhm.
bona fide relationship. Marriage certificate. If there's any prior divorces, um, uh, uh, bills, that joint bank accounts that the couple has, they're
Mhm.
gonna want to see that ahead of time. So
Mhm.
when you get to the interview, what you want to do is whatever you sent already to immigration, make sure
Mhm.
that you have those documents in original, plus any other additional documents. Like,
Mhm.
let's say after the packet of petition was submitted, your spouse got you health insurance, life insurance, things like that, that
Mhm.
demonstrate that, hey, we have a relationship. Let's say that a pregnancy happened along the way before the
Mhm.
interview. You want to bring proof of pregnancy. So you take these things, and at the interview, generally speaking, it's not a hostile environment.
Mhm.
It's not like you're gonna go to an interview in USCIS and they're gonna be battering you during the interview. They're just gonna make you questions about your relationship. And when it's just general questions. It's nothing to be afraid of. For example, how did you guys meet? Where did you guys meet? When did you start dating? What was the date of the wedding? What's your spouse's date of birth? What are your
Mhm.
in-laws' names? Things like that. So if when you have a good relationship, and especially if there's a pregnancy or they already have a child together, those are pretty strong signs that the relationship is good. So USCIS is not gonna, again, like I said, it's not hostile.
Mhm.
Especially, I would say, is the case with asylum interviews when an affirmative asylum is filed. If you have an affirmative asylum, you came into the United States, you're not in an immigration court, but you decide to file for asylum because you feel returning to your country. You go
Mhm.
to an asylum interview with USCIS, and
Mhm.
they're very nice. They just want to get the information from you. Make sure they want to make sure that they have all the details so they can direct adjudicate your case.
Mhm.
Citizenship interviews, same dynamic.
Mhm.
Very polite, very nice. It's just going through the application, making sure they have everything. If there's changes, they update it. You sign at the end, agreeing to the changes that were made. So it's very relaxed, let's say, in that sense, generally speaking. All right.
All right. To our amazing audience, thank you for joining us. Whether you're tuning in from Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, we're thrilled to have you here. We are immigrationquestion.com, a two-in-one platform built with lead and case management to help simplify the immigration process. You can ask your immigration questions for free in any language and get connected with a verified attorney for guidance. You may also receive a free confidential initial consultation. Just visit www.immigrationquestion.com and sign up today. Now, Attorney Irizarry Lopez, as a platform that connects documented and undocumented immigrants with trusted attorneys like yourself, what are your thoughts on how immigrationquestion.com supports the immigrant community today?
Amazing, amazing. All the information that the community can receive is good. We live in a challenging time where there's so many things changing every day, every week. We have to keep up with all these things. So updated information and just these services to the community, it's great so that people have a better understanding how things work and just like that, where we answer questions, so certain levels of anxiety can go down, and you obtaining the proper information to help you in your case.
Thank you. Before we go into our live Q&A session, let's take this important question. For those tuning in who may be supporting a loved one or a friend post-release, it's important to understand the critical role that a support network plays. So, how can friends and family members best support someone who has been released from immigration detention, especially in the early days of rebuilding their lives?
Yeah. One of the important things is, like I said, before even being released, the immigration court, ICE, is going to want to make sure that the person has a family member that can, or a family member or a friend that's willing to say, "Hey, I'm here available. This is where the person is going to live." So if you have a friend who's detained, you can do it. If you understand you have the means to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can provide your support that way. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's that's important. Obviously, this person is going to remain with you for a while. If they decide to move later on, make sure that the address is updated. Uh, 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 but it's that initial, especially after the first few days, first few weeks, it's important to have that person rely on you in that sense. So that's great.
Perfect. Thank you. That was amazing, Attorney Irizarry Lopez. To our audience, the floor is now open. Drop your questions in the chat and we will answer as many as possible. If you'd like to call us live and ask directly, dial 516-703-3483. So the first question is, hello, upon my release from immigration detention, what are the immediate and long-term implications for my existing house in Texas? Can I regain this?
I'm I mean, I what I mean, so what are we meaning with the long term implications? What's going? I would need to know a little more detail about that. So, was the house not being paid for? Was it in foreclosure? Or something like that. If let's say you weren't paying your house, then that's something that you would have to look for in the Texas law specifically about that. Because different states, different foreclosure laws, and how they work. So you may want to get in touch with a lawyer who understands that more directly with
Mhm.
your house in Texas, so I can give you more detailed information about that.
Definitely. Next question is from Natalia. After an arrest, could he be arrested again? Is it advisable to travel within the U.S. by plane? I imagine she's asking about a partner. So I think he got arrested. So is it advisable to travel within the U.S. by plane?
Okay, so I've had the situation where I have someone arrested, detained by ICE, released on bond, arrested again, and detained by ICE again.
Mm-hmm.
So it is possible to happen,
Mm-hmm.
to be detained again by ICE. Again, I had that happen twice. Especially the person I'm thinking about, he was actually detained 3 times by ICE. So it's like, first one, release. Second one, I was like, this is gonna be tough. Luckily for him, he was released. Third time, he wasn't so lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, you can be detained by ICE in more than one occasion. When it comes to travel within the United States by plane, uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you're in immigration court proceedings, and like I said, you have some type of relief pending, technically you can. You have an ID, you're traveling with the United States, technically you can. My
Mm-hmm.
advice is not to do it just in case. I mean, yeah, just a matter of precaution, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't, because again, you can technically fly, but especially if you're thinking about going to Hawaii or Puerto Rico, be aware that you could encounter some issues. Although again, technically you could, but my advice is not to.
Okay. All right. Our next question is, how can I find out if I have a pending court date after being released?
Okay, so after being released, you want to find out you have a court hearing. So what you want to do is this: look through your immigration documents. Um, there's what's called the A number. That you see, you're gonna see your name. Generally, right next to it, you're gonna see an A and 9 digits after that. That's your
Mhm.
A number.
Mhm.
Every immigrant who's in removal proceedings or had a petition, I mean, let's keep it in removal proceedings, has an A number. So
Mhm.
that's assigned to you. So what I would say is this: let's say it was an example, New Jersey. You
Mhm.
were released in New Jersey. You were in a, you want to call the Newark Immigration Court. That's where all the cases in New Jersey are heard. You can call the court and ask, look, this is my A number.
Mhm.
Do I have a court hearing yet?
Mhm.
And they'll tell you, hey, you have it here in the system. You don't have a court date yet. Or yes, you do have a court hearing and it's
Mhm.
a set time. They're
Mhm.
probably going to ask you, did you update your address with the court? That's why I
Mhm.
said it
Mhm.
earlier. It's so
Mhm.
important to make sure that the court has your address. Every
Mhm.
time you move, update that address because that's where they're going to send you a notification. And you don't want to miss that because if you don't show up to court, you're going to get a removal order. Another thing that I do is that I Google search EOIR case status.
Mhm.
First thing that comes up, EOIR system. You type in your A number there. It's gonna search, and your information is gonna show up there. So you're gonna be able to see if you have a court hearing date.
All right. Our next question is, I was released from detention after overstaying my visa and I have a court date. What should I do?
Well, the first thing is look for a lawyer and see the options that you have. All right. Um, like I said, people who come in with a visa, I'm gonna assume here it was a tourist visa.
Mhm.
So, another one of the options that you may have is if you have a partner who's a green card holder, is a U.S. citizen, and you guys are planning to marry, and you do so. You can marry. A petition can be filed on your behalf. You can seek to have your proceedings terminated, so later you can have your green card. Uh, but that's something. Each case is different. So what I would do, seek legal help, see your options, because like I said, you have more time to work on your case, whatever it may be it an asylum, cancellation and removal, whatever it is that you have pending. But if you
Mhm.
have other options, you want to know those other options, if you can work them in your case and how you can proceed with them. All right.
Mhm. Definitely. All right, let's continue with the questions. Am I allowed to work legally now that I have been released?
Okay. So when it comes to work permits, it's important to know because a lot of people, they seek help and say, hey, I want a work permit. Well, it doesn't
Mhm.
work that way. In order
Mhm.
for you to obtain a work permit, you have to request a work permit based on something. Okay.
Mhm.
So an asylum applicant qualifies for a work permit.
Mhm.
Now there's details to that, but you can obtain a work permit. So generally speaking, right after you file your asylum application with the
Mhm.
court,
Mhm.
you have to wait 150 days for
Mhm.
you to be able to send your work permit application to USCIS.
Mhm.
30 days later, 180 days, USCIS is going to process your application.
Mhm.
My experience has been that in the last year and a half, those work permits are coming out very quickly. So in about a month, after you submit your application for a work permit, you're gonna have it. Okay. So once you have your work permit, once you have your social security number, you can work legally, and that's not a problem. At this point, work permits based on asylum, for example, are good for 5 years. So once you
Mhm.
get it, you'll be able to work legally and file your
Mhm.
taxes with your social security number for 5 years. The, the
Mhm.
the time that the work permit is valid.
Mhm. Definitely. Thank you. Next question is there any way to bring my spouse or children to the US now that I'm released?
I mean, if you were released, I have to understand you're undocumented. So we have to understand that to bring your family here legally, you need to have a legal status. So once you obtain your green card, you can file a petition to bring your family over to the United States and just do the process through USCIS, and they'll guide you through that eventually. So, like I said before, once you get a status, so you can petition for them and have them come to the United States.
Understood. Um, Next question is, my family was deported, but I wasn't. How? How can I apply for them to return?
Okay, so I mean, if your family was deported, uh, couple of things. First of all, we would have to make sure and be clear: was it like a voluntary departure? Was it an actual order of removal? Because it's gonna depend, right? If you have a removal order, you can't come back to the United States in 10 years. If you do so illegally, then you're gonna have the permanent bar, and you're not gonna be able to adjust status in the United States. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So if your family was deported again, like I said, you first of all you would need to have some type of status within the United States, and then when it comes to family, who are we talking about? Is it a spouse? Is it a parent? Is it a child? Because
Mm-hmm.
that plays into it. There's different rules to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the petition and how it's processed and your status, it's not the same thing petitioning for someone as a green card holder as petitioning for them as a U.S. citizen. Things
Mm-hmm.
change, and who you can petition and when you can petition can vary. All right. And if they were deported, most likely you're gonna need it's a different process because you're gonna need waivers, and it's gonna be different. It's not something so simple as if someone who was in their country and their spouse, for example, who's a U.S. citizen, petitioned for them. It's a lot easier than compared to when someone has a deportation order, or even when they have a voluntary departure that was granted and they left the country.
All right. Thank you. What happens if I move after being released? How do I update my address with the immigration court?
So if after being released, if you change your address from the one the court originally had, what you want to do is go to the immigration court and file what's it's a blue form. It's the EOIR 33. EOIR 33. You're going to go there, you're going to ask for that form, you're going to fill it out, so you're going to sign it, give it at the window, make sure that DHS, ICE Council also has that form so that everyone has your address. We all know where you are. So you do that, and now the court has it in their system. Whatever court hearing notice they're gonna send, they have the updated address. So every time you move, and that form also requests your phone number. So updated phone number, updated address, email. Every time you update that information, present it to court, so they always have it.
All right. Thank you. And last but not least, our last question is I dropped out of school and overstayed my visa. Is there any way I can fix my status without being deported?
So I dropped out of school and overstayed my visa. I'm gonna assume that we're talking about a student visa.
I think so.
So if that's the case, um, uh, I mean, the you can generally speaking, the cases I have worked with is people who came in with a student visa and they married. So one of the options that you have is obviously marriage and having your spouse filing a petition on your behalf so that you can obtain status through that.
All right. So that was our last question. That was an excellent way to end the session. Thank you so much for joining us. And a special thank you to our special guest, attorney Jonathan Irizarry-Lopez, for your practical and strategic insights. We hope this webinar answered all your questions. Remember, at immigrationquestion.com, you can ask your immigration questions for free and get connected with a licensed attorney in good standing who can help you better understand your options. You may also qualify for a free confidential initial consultation. Visit our site to learn more. Don't forget, you can re-watch this session or listen to the previous episodes on Spotify. Just search for Borderless Talk by immigrationquestion.com. Join us again on Friday for a special edition about the student visas. Trust us, you won't want to miss it. Once again, thank you, Attorney Irizarry-Lopez, and we look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.